In this video, let's talk about the brand new cards coming out in Legacy of Destruction. This set is going to be an insane one, and just following up from a ban list as well, you could not ask for a more exciting format. We've gotten so many support cards for existing archetypes, but also brand new themes as well. We've got, of course, the Ashened support coming out, which I cannot wait for. We actually have 2 fusions for wave 2 of support, but also we get the continuation of the Snake Eyes Diabellstar lore. Looming over the format is Tenpai, and so with that being said, let's get into this, guys. I want to break down the cards you need to get in Legacy of Destruction, the cards you didn't know about, and the cards you should be wary of. With that being said, let's get into the video, guys. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys there. Alright, I want to start off with cards that you need to get, and these are the cards that stick out the most in the pack. These are the cards you want to make sure you have copies of after testing, and if you've seen my Snake Eyes Tenpai video, you can see how powerful this card is. And if you were to use Temple Snake Eye to put Flamberge in the back row, Snake Eyes Diabellstar is the perfect option. So that means you can also run 1 Flamberge Dragon, and some OCG lists are also doing that. So what this card does when attack is declared involving this card and opponent's monster, you can place this card from the field and that opponent's monster face up in their owner's spell and trap zone as continuous spells. So this is removal. It's 2800 and it's a fire monster, guys. It's coming in at some really beefy stats. It's level 8 as well if you cared about rank 8 monsters. But more importantly, while it is a continuous spell, you can target a fire in your graveyard. You can place that card in the spell trap card zone, and if you do, special summon this card. So I really love the idea behind Snake Eyes Diabellstar, and I love the recursion it has with fire monsters. I'm really excited for this card, and I want to see the damage it can do. So the Tenpais may have been announced as a common rarity, and because of this, everyone will be playing Tenpai. And for that reason, I think this deck has even more attention than it should have had. This deck is a OTK machine, possibly the best going second strategy in the history. All starting off with 1 card, give you 37,400 damage, or 16,000, 14,000 under prosperity, and it's something we just haven't seen before. As well as including options where your fire dragons are unaffected in the main phase. This deck has it all, and if you want to get an in-depth guide on Tenpai, I highly recommend my Tenpai Dragon playlist, or check out these videos here, how to play Tenpai Snake Eyes, which is going to be my meta deck the second LED releases, but also pure Tenpai Dragon, ways to play and versions of it. You're going to want to pick up Tenpai Dragons, and you're going to want to know how to play them and what to expect. Let's talk about Blessings of the Voiceless Voice. So this is the new spell card coming out for Voiceless Voice, and this card is actually quite busted. To have a Voiceless card in your graveyard or banished, add it to your hand. So you can now add the Saphira that you banished back to your hand. I love that this is anti-bestial, which was the known tech to beat Saphira. If a non-ritual is normal or special, you can conduct a light ritual summon. A way to also access, if you didn't know, the new Saphira ritual monster, which honestly, guys, no one is playing this card, but I think this card is a low-key pick, and it just so happens to work perfectly with the new Blessing spell card. That is the only way you're going to want to summon this card, and if lowers on the field when ritual summoned, you will be able to draw 2, discard 1 to find your hand trap. But also an attack is declared involving a light ritual monster, you can discard a random card from your opponent's hand. More importantly, during the opponent's end phase, you can add a light monster from your grave to your hand. You can add Effect Veiler, you can add Nibiru. So there we go, guys, ways to recursion some of the most popular and possibly the best hand trap in the game, Nibiru. I love this card design, and I love what Voiceless Voice is doing. If you're ever curious about this deck, this is the time to pick it up, and I highly recommend you do. I think this is a great meta deck that's going to exist forever. Some really showstopper cards, guys. Nightmare Throne is the new searcher card for Yubel, and they are taking Yubel all the way to the top. When Konami wants to make a deck as relevant as possible, they need a field spell. So this card can trigger your Yubel monsters, and that's exactly what you want in the Yubel deck. Remember, Unchained also needs things to be destroyed. This card is made for Unchained Yubel, which is a very, very powerful OCG deck right now. They even get a brand new retrain of Grave Skirmer that also benefits the archetype, makes them a lot more splashable, and is very efficient to help trigger the Yubel monsters. Konami loves illusion monsters. We've got Diabellze, but we also have Nightmare Apprentice. Now, this card is making huge waves. It's quite talked about, and for good reason. If this card is normal or special, can add a illusion monster from your deck to your hand. I can definitely see the Diabellze card being played, and just so happens Anti-Spell Fragrance was put to 1, so I feel like Konami is saying something here. They want players to play Nightmare Apprentice, maybe a small illusion package, but most importantly, add Diabellze to hand and have that broken anti-spell going. Remember, guys, quick play spells are the name of the game right now. If one today is set, it can't be activated, but to activate, you have to say it. That's why Diabellze is very strong. And the last card that I really want to make sure you guys know about is Varudras, the final bringer of the end times. This is an amazing card. When your opponent activates a card or effect, you can detach a material negate the activation, then you can detach a material from this card, destroy one card on the field. So it's got a negation and a destruction. At some point, if a generic rank 10 package can be made, every deck will run this to beat Nibiru, which right now is uncontested because of the Byron Savage ban. This card is literally made to trigger as many Unchained and Yubel effects as possible, and then if this Exceed Summon card is destroyed, it could be by battle or card effect, destroy another card on the field. Okay, let's break down the new cards coming out that are going to be new archetypes coming in Legacy of Destruction. The first one, let's talk about Ragnaraika, the Evil Seed. So this represents the Ragnaraika archetype, which is made of insect, plant, and reptiles. Ragnaraika and possibly Ragnaraika Ogdoic, Ragnaraika Sanavalon, or Plant or Aromage is a serious rogue contender. These cards read really efficient, really modern card design. If this is a normal special summon, you're going to add up to 2 different Ragnaraika cards that are banished or in your deck, then banish 1 card from your hand. All the link monsters also have this effect, but if this card is in your graveyard, you can target an insect, plant, or reptile you control, place it on the bottom of the deck, and if you do, special summon this card. All the link monsters have very unique effects, with Ragnaraka Chain Coils, the reptile link, which is fire by the way, so definitely some Princess synergy where Princess can bring this back. If your opponent activates a monster effect, neither player can activate the effects of monsters in the hand this turn. Imagine doing this against Rescuers and they can't special Turbulence. Being a toolbox Ragnaraka player, I felt you're going to have an answer for anything in the game. I really like the modern retrend they're doing with these old school decks. Let's talk about Shining Sarcophagus, which cannot be destroyed by monster effects. During the main phase, you can add a card that mentions it from the deck to the hand. If your opponent special a monster from the graveyard, discard a spell, then target one of those monsters and send it to the graveyard. And then let's go into the big bad boss monster Gandora, Dragon of Destruction, which in this archetype is actually quite reminiscent of the Lightsworns deck and Judgment Dragon. Destroy as many other cards on the field as possible, and if you do, banish them, and then special a level 7 or lower monster that mentions Sarcophagus from your deck. So in the Yugi deck, you will be stacking up your field with so many monsters. I feel like when you summon this card, you are gearing up for the ultimate OTK. And I feel like because of the control cards they have in the form of Silent Swordsman 0, Magician 0, but also Turn Silence, which everything is searchable, it makes for a very powerful going first deck. Let me know in the comments if you're going to be playing this deck. Are you excited for the Yugi DM era deck? Let's talk about the new support cards boosting existing archetypes. Talk about Vados, the Dragon of Endless Darkness, which needs Vados and 2+ level 9 or low Pyro monsters. So already I'm thinking about Snake Eye Ash and the other Snake Eye monsters. So we could see a Snake Eye Vados deck come to life. I feel like this card will stay on the field and just annoy opponents because of its other effect. If Fusion Summoned, will destroy all spam trap cards your opponent controls, which by the way is not a once per turn. And then when your opponent activates a card or effect on the field, quick effect, send a face up Ashen card to the graveyard, destroy that card. And the fact opponent's monsters become Pyros, this will be a super poly target. So 2 poly will actually be played in Vados now. The Vados deck is going to become something quite real. I love where the Vados is going and I cannot wait to play this deck. The recent announcement of the Whitewoods archetype, and a lot of players are actually looking at Centur-Ion as a potential deck. If this card is special summoned, you can add a Centur-Ion card from your deck to your hand. The last thing we needed to put or Trudea or even the other Centur-Ion monsters in the back row. This also includes the effect monster that comes out with Centur-Ion, which is Gargoyle second. You can send one face of Centur-Ion card you control to the graveyard to special this from the hand. I actually can't wait for Centur-Ion Gargoyle and the Synchro to release, especially with the Whitewoods announcement in Infinite Forbidden. So if you ever thought about playing Centur-Ion, now's your time to get these cards. Memento gets new archetype support as well, thanks to Legacy of Destruction. Honestly guys, this is my favorite news to come out since the Rarity collection. I've done some videos on the channel already about Memento, so I definitely recommend you check those out. Get a quick understanding of how and why Memento is a big deal now. If this card is fusion summoned, you can destroy 1 Memento in your hand or field and add up to 2 different names from your deck to your hand. So typically you're adding Trigon Dragon, which is another free special summon, but more importantly, when this is destroyed, you special a level 6 alone Memento from your graveyard. Now with Goblin, you can dump 2 to the graveyard as well. I feel like this card is the perfect extender. They can also end on a Guardian Camera in the opponent's turn with an IPSP Appaloosa, as well as stealing an opponent's monster. Again, with that 5 monster effect negation, it's quite budget friendly as well, so I would actually recommend you pick it up. Similar to Centur-Ion, this support is actually insane. Before Legacy of Destruction, Ancient Gear players would just play this as a fun deck. With the new cards, however, you can at least play at a local level, possibly take it to regionals with Ancient Gear Commander. By sending an Ancient Gear Golem from hand, deck, or monsters onto the graveyard, you could immediately normal summon an Ancient Gear. So you're actually dumping your Ancient Gear monster to the grave for your fusion summon, and you're getting a second normal summon. So the Ancient Gear Golem you just dumped with its first effect, you're now special summoning, and also you can banish this from the graveyard and place a Ancient Gear continuous trap face up on your field. It is quite a serious OTK deck. Now, let's talk about Ancient Gear Duel, the continuous trap. Ancient Gear monsters and cards that mention it are unaffected by your opponent's activated monster effects. We are also including Nibiru in this as well. That's quite a big deal. So I think a lot of anime fans are happy for this support. This is going to be a Legacy of Destruction video without discussing Lightsworns. If there's a special summon, you can send a Lightsworn card from your deck to the graveyard. Now, this doesn't sound quite crazy at first, but you gotta remember, guys, this card can set up your Judgment Dragon. You can send Lightsworn monsters with different taps from the deck to the graveyard, up to the Lightsworn monsters used as material. And I think that's exactly what the deck needed. You can also banish up to 4 Lightsworns from your graveyard and send that many cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard. I can see this being splashed in tournament decks and other power decks. So if you like those kind of styles of play, you definitely want to pick up the Lightsworn cards. Enlightenment Dragon needs Judgment and Punishment Dragon. You can pay 2,000 life points, banish all cards from on the field and in the graveyard. Now, keep in mind, if you have the Synchro monster in the field, your license cannot be banished if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card. You can add 2 of your banished monsters to your hand, which is Judgment and Punishment Dragon, and then you can special summon both, where they have their effects live as well. This reminds me of a second phase of an Elder Ring boss monster, and it is going to be very consistent thanks to the new support cards for Lightsworn. You guys had a lot of things to say about Melodious as well, which with the new Legacy of Destruction support, it has like 9 1-card combos and can establish some pretty good and unbreakable boards. It could run Herald of the Orange Light, which is at 3 for us, so you can already see the reasons why this is quite serious. But also, the boss monster can pounce up to 6 cards, guys. We're seeing in modern cards, a lot of these are being protected by destruction. Bouncing seems to be the new secret tech to getting rid of a board. My favorite part of the video, where we talk about the wild cards coming out in Legacy of Destruction. Let's talk about some of these cards that are so unusual, I just had to share them for you guys. Field Spell, which reminds you of Pot of Prosperity. During the main phase, the turn player activates this card, excavates cards from the top of the deck up to the number of cards your opponent controls, and if you do, add 1 of them to the hand. After that, place any remaining cards and 1 card from your hand on the bottom of the deck. Now, a lot of players were telegraphing this to be a Prosperity band because it does reminisce it. It's also a fairer version of Prosperity, but it has a very interesting second effect. During the end phase of the turn, any player excavate 9 or more cards. The player can activate this effect and shuffle everything your opponent controls into the deck. So this feels like a Egyptian god card boss finisher, all in a random field spell. Metal Tronus is basically anti-SP Leonite. Let's talk about it. Target 1 face-up non-token your opponent controls. Special monster from your hand, deck, or extra deck that has 2 or more of the same type, attribute, and or attack. And if you do, negate the targeted monster's effect. And after that, if these monsters have the same name, you can banish both face down. So this card reminds me of a main deck Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries that affects the main deck. It affects the board, and you could also say is a much looser way of playing Ghost Reaper. When you go first, you can set this card down in the mirror match and cause some real pain for the opponent. And that has been my Legacy of Destruction wrap up, guys. We went through so many archetype cards there, cards that are getting new support, and finally the cards you need to get and what everyone is talking about. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe for more videos like this one, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.